This video is a recording from the MenProvement Podcast, brought to you by MenProvement.com, the #1 self-improvement resource strictly for men. Go there today to see all podcasts, improve yourself as a man, and get access to 3 free ebooks, including one that will help you triple your testosterone naturally. Thank you and enjoy.
Ready to take your life to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Get all the information you need to be better, improve everything, and live life like a pro. This is the MenProvement Podcast with Sean Russell.
Welcome back to the MenProvement Podcast, brought to you by MenProvement.com, the #1 self-improvement resource strictly for men. Head there after the show to get your free self-improvement starter kit, including your free ebook on how to triple your testosterone naturally. I'm your host, Sean Russell, a self-improvement enthusiast who is obsessed with taking his life to the next level, and I created this podcast to help myself and men like you do just that. Today's episode is with Jordan Harbinger from The Art of Charm. The Art of Charm is an academy that teaches men how to leverage the power of social dynamics and psychology to win more friends, earn the respect of your peers, get the girl of your dreams, and master the art of networking. I brought Jordan on the show to share his experience to help you, along with myself, become a better communicator, because it is one of the most important skills known to man. And I'm not going to lie, it's the one area which I personally really need to work on, which Jordan helps me debunk towards the beginning of the show. During the show, you're going to learn exactly how to make an incredible first impression without ever opening your mouth, and specific exercises that you can start doing today that will literally change your life. If you apply what you are about to learn, specifically after the 10-minute mark, you will be head and shoulders above any other guy out there. But before we get into it, I just want to give a quick shout out to our new sponsors, ownonly.com. Own Only is an online custom suit retailer, and I just recently got a custom suit from them, and I was so pleased that I had to get them on as a sponsor. All you have to do is go to ownonly.com, pick whatever suit you want, follow their instructions to take your own measurements and input them in the fields, and 3 weeks later, you have a custom suit show up to your doorstep that fits your body perfectly. I got mine last week. It's a perfect fit, and I'm going to have some pictures of it in an article I'm writing about sometime next week. The price is amazing. It's around $300 for a 2-piece suit and a little more for a 3-piece suit, and you get a custom suit delivered straight to your doorstep. Usually you would have to pay $400 to $500 for a suit in the first place, and then a couple hundred more to get it tailored. If you go on their website right now, they have Christmas specials going on with a chance to get a $200 coupon towards a suit. And if you do order, you can use the coupon code MPSUIT to get $30 off any order over $200. So definitely check them out at ownonly.com. So I won't waste any more time, and let's jump into this week's episode with Jordan Harbinger from The Art of Charm. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here today with Jordan Harbinger of The Art of Charm. What's up, Jordan? Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you guys do over at The Art of Charm. But for anyone who doesn't know, why don't you just explain who you are and what your company is all about?
All right. So essentially what we do here at The Art of Charm is we teach confidence and advanced social skills. So a lot of times I know people are like, oh, what's that? But traditionally our clients range from engineers to military, special forces, and intelligence, and entrepreneurs. Anybody that needs to sell themselves better, be able to sell their company better, and anybody who needs to be able to connect with people better, either for business or personal reasons. So sometimes, someone will come in and say, I've been a workaholic for 5 years and I need to bring my dating skills up to par because I want to accomplish some life goals, family and kids and et cetera. Other times people say, listen, I sell computer systems and solutions that are $20 million to the government. It's all about who you know. I need to learn how to meet the right people, connect with them, get them to like and trust me so I can do business. And so that's what we teach at The Art of Charm.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated by the field of social dynamics, and it's something that I'm just starting to really learn about. So it's perfect that we've got you on the show now. You have an actual school, correct, in California?
Yeah, we do, in Los Angeles. And so guys come from all over the world, and they actually stay on residence or in residence with us here at The Art of Charm. So right now, let me look at the roster just to give you a sample of who's in. So we've got a pilot from somewhere in the Midwest. We've got a couple of guys from Ireland, which is random. I've got a guy who's a farmer of certain types of, I don't know, medical plants or something. Read into that all you want. That's all I know. He's from California. We've got a college student, which is random. I've got a television producer. I've got a movie guy from Hollywood. And I've got an older guy who is recently divorced, and he's coming through, and he's just like a machine guy, like some sort of machine operator. So it actually takes all... Oh, and there's a guy from Germany and another guy from Asia. I can't remember if it's China or Korea off the top of my head. So there's guys that come from all over the world to learn this stuff. They come for various reasons. So one guy's coming because he's recently divorced. Another guy's coming because he's graduating from college and needs to learn how to sell himself so he can get a high-level job. Another guy, he wants to learn how to connect with people, probably because his business is a little bit isolating. And the other guys are well into their careers and they want to learn how to level up. And, you know, they realize that it is about people skills no matter what. Even at high-level technical jobs, where you're looking at companies like Facebook and Twitter and Apple, the people who get really far ahead and are irreplaceable are the people who have relationships. Because you can be highly technically skilled, but at the end of the day, that skill set is largely going to be replaceable. It's networks that are unique.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the more we get into the technological age, the less people are being, you know, people, and the less skills they have socially. So I think what you're doing is like perfect on cue with like where we are in today's society.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's growing rapidly in popularity, so we're pretty happy about that.
Yeah. And like I said, again, I think it's perfect timing that I'm talking to you because just this weekend I got invited to a wedding as a +1 with pretty much a girl who I met one time for 20 minutes, and pretty girl and everything, so I was kind of excited. But I get there and she's in the wedding, and I found myself pretty much not knowing anybody, and it was a real test of my social skills, which are not terrible, but I am like an introverted guy. So I found myself like awkwardly standing there while she wasn't around, hesitant to start conversations with people, and B, when I was in conversations, just being in those generic, boring, you know, what do you do conversations that go dead after about 2 minutes. Are there any so-called generic one-size-fits-all tips that you have just for being better in conversations?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think for you, or just for the audience at large, let me drop this on you. So rather than worrying about conversations, and actually, to your point, here's sort of a good distinction, right? A lot of people are thinking, all right, I need to be better in conversations. And I'll back up and say, what makes you think that? And you might say, well, actually, I'll ask you, what makes you think that?
What makes me think that? Because I have so many times where I don't know what to say per se, and I picture myself as this guy who's, you know, just captivating people and controlling conversations, and I know it's possible because I know people go from one area to the next area, and I feel like it's just going to benefit me professionally, and it's going to open more doors.
Exactly. Yeah, it totally will. You're completely right there. So let me ask you this. How do you know that you don't know what to say or that what you're saying isn't the right thing, supposedly?
I just blank out. I mean, I don't know why it's not the right thing, but I just, you know, I don't know.
Something's not going wrong in your interactions. You're not quite sure what, but you think it's probably because you don't know what to say.
Yeah. Just
okay.
Boring interactions. And
that's a perfect example, right? Because you're doing something, we call this being in your head, where you're like, how you're managing and micromanaging yourself during your interactions and thinking, and correct me wherever I'm wrong here.
No, I'm definitely, I'm in my head.
Okay. Yeah. So you're thinking, what is she thinking right now? Is this boring? This feels boring to me. If I'm bored, then she's probably bored.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh crap, I've just been thinking for a while. Has this been an awkwardly long silence? Or wait, what do I say now? I'm starting to panic. Nothing's coming to mind and it's still silent. This is really weird. She thinks I'm really weird. This is not going well. Because that may or may not resemble a dialogue that's gone through your head at some point over the last,
something like that. Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, give or take, right? And there's so many things going on there that knowing what to say is actually putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. In fact, these pickup artisty type guys, they're like, oh man, you need like a routine thing and you can stack this and that and you got this interesting story, but then you're kind of giving a performance and you're not actually connecting with anybody and you're putting on a weird mask. We call this a social mask, because in order to connect with people, you need to be as authentic as possible. And so where the art of charm and pickup artistry type stuff, we're not even close to the same, but where we really diverge is we're all about vulnerability and strength and vulnerability, authenticity. And I don't mean that in like a woo-woo energy, feel your masculine energy kind of way. I mean taking off the mask. If you're running around telling people, oh, my stripper ex-girlfriend picked me up in her Ferrari on the way back from a movie shoot, you just want people to think you're cool. But if you're talking about how you're doing, say you're talking with somebody that you just met and they're like, how you doing? And you're like, I'm actually kind of at a weird point in my life right now. It's funny you should ask. I just moved out here to this new city. I've got this new job and I'm here getting coffee, but I realized, wow, I don't have the same sort of network of people that I did back home. And the next question is, oh, wow, that's like heavier than they expected, right? Maybe this isn't the first thing you say, but they might say, well, where are you originally from? Now you're in an organic conversation about something that's actually on your mind that you can actually talk about. You won't go blank because you're talking about the way that you feel and the way that your life is. You're not trying to be entertaining, funny, interesting, and you don't have to be really, because that's not what connecting people with people is about. It's not about being the most entertaining guy in the room. And once you start to have authentic interactions with people, they don't all have to be like deep and interesting and very like personal. You can go goof around and joke with people. And we actually teach improv-y type systems for that at the Art of Charm as well. It's just that it's much more authentic. It's not with the end result of please like me. It's with the end result of screening the right people into your life, filtering for the right people who are going to be compatible with you. It's not like, I don't give a crap, I'm going to go out there and tear shit up, bro. It's not like that. It's like, which people are going to be the right fit for my social circle? And that's something that most people don't do because they're too busy trying to get people to like them because they feel lonely or whatever. And that's largely what causes people to be in their head. And different coaches will have different reasons for that. But honestly, most coaches just say, oh, you need to like meditate more. And it's like, that's cool and all that. But let's be honest, you're trying to fix a car with duct tape. That's not how you do it. It might look like it's working, but at the end of the day, something else is happening here. And we have experience with just thousands of people. So we're more of a science-based type of company as well. AJ, my co-founder, being an actual cancer biologist in a past life anyway, and me being a lawyer, we don't look at something and go, oh, cool, get your energy right. That doesn't work with a lawyer and a cancer biologist. It just doesn't fly. And like I said, most of our clients are engineers. We have a lot of military intelligence, special forces, things like that. Those guys, you tell them get your chakras aligned, they're gonna backhand you, and rightfully so, in my opinion. So rather than focusing on what the right thing to say is, let's look at the way people make first impressions is very important, and everybody knows this, right? Like, oh, first impressions are key. First impressions are key, and part of the reason people think they're not saying the right thing is because they're trying to make a good first impression and they think they're going to do it by saying something, by talking about something. And that's really not where first impressions are made and I'll give a dating example. I'll put this in a dating context because it's more interesting. So when you're giving your first impression, generally, it's always going to be when you become a blip on somebody else's radar. So not when you see them and when you open your mouth. That's actually a really common misconception. It's about when they see you. And so that's a huge difference because a lot of people think, oh, well, we see each other at the same time because I walk up to her and da-da-da to talk. No, she's probably seen you a lot before that.
Yeah.
And the only trick is you haven't necessarily been conscious of making your first impression. So this might be a little bit confusing. So let me put it in a real life scenario. 3 girls are sitting in a bar. They're joking around. They're showing pictures from one of them's vacation. They're having a couple of cocktails, whatever. You walk in with your friends. You're going to watch the basketball game, hang out, talk to girls, whatever guys do when they go to the bar, right? You walk downstairs. Your friends go, oh, man, there's some cute girls at the bar. You notice them too. They're looking a little bit towards the door. 2 of them are. The other one's looking through her phone. They maybe see you. Maybe they don't. You walk to the corner of the bar to hang out with your friends. You grab a drink. You notice them. You're looking at them. They maybe notice you. You're not quite sure. You kind of think maybe they see you. You're looking over there. Your friends are definitely looking over there. And suddenly, you're like, oh man, I'm starting to get a little nervous because I want to go talk to those girls. Your friends are egging you on because they heard you listen to The Art of Charm and they think you should have some sort of superpowers by now. Yeah. And you're like, oh man, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to do, but I'm going to do this thing what a lot of guys do. They go up there and they order a drink and they get a closer look at the girls. Maybe you do that. Maybe your friend does that. They definitely notice you then, but nobody says anything. You go back to your table. You pretend to watch the basketball game with your hands in your pockets for another 30 minutes. You have another couple shots of Jack. And then finally, one of you or one of your friends walks up to the girls and says, after two of them go to the bathroom, and says, hey, what's going on? What are you guys drinking? And the girl's like, yeah, we're just catching up because of vacation. And, it's kind of just girls' night out. And you're like, oh, okay, they're not interested in talking to me. You mosey back to your friends, hat in hand, tail between your legs, and you're like, oh man, they're not interested, not really sure what went wrong there. And here's part of the reason. It's, the amateur or the regular dude, I should say, goes, oh, I must have just not said something creative. And your friend's like, man, you went up there and asked what you're drinking. Oh, you're an idiot. That's not a good opening line. You're so dumb, or whatever. And you're chiding each other about that. And it doesn't really matter, right? The truth is your first impression was made long before you opened your mouth. It had nothing to do with what you were saying. And what most people will never realize is that your first impression was made, like I said earlier, right? When you become a blip on their radar. So one of the girls saw you when you walked in to the bar with your friends. The other two saw you when you were standing in the corner. And their first thought might have been, wow, okay, cool. Those guys are our age. They're kind of cute. They look like they're having a good time. And then throughout the night, as you guys sort of stared at the TV with no audio and got drunker and clearly were looking at them but not making a move, just clearly waiting for the drinks to check in, and then you sent your lame-o buddy over there to do a flyby to get a closer look, and he didn't have the balls to say anything. So by the time somebody finally sacked up and walked over there and said something, the first impression was, we don't have the courage to do this. We don't know what we're doing. This is our first rodeo. Now we're drunk enough to take a little bit of risk, and they've already lost interest in you half an hour ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because your first impression was all of those things. Meanwhile, you, for some reason, thought you were invisible until you decided to make a move, which is not the case.
Yeah, and how it's so funny how you just described that whole interaction going down. It was probably like step for step, 70% of people listening's exact first hour of their night and how most people do it, spot on. And we actually I had one of the guys from MenProvement and on the show 3 weeks ago, and he talked about commanding a room and how the first thing he does when he comes in the room is he approaches the hottest girl there and he kind of burns her. He goes up unthreatening, asks her something about her dress, maybe says he wants to get it for his girlfriend, just gets into a fun, laughable conversation with this girl just to essentially make a first impression, because every other girl in the room sees that. And then he goes to the next girl and the next girl. Do you have any systems for making a solid first impression similar to that?
Yeah, I do. And I'll say, I don't know who that was, and I'm not here to
say whatever you want, man. It's all good.
Do anything against other experts here, but starting up in a nonchalant sort of conversation with a girl, that's great. That really probably works really well in college and things like that. But if a grown-up male walks up to, and any women listening to this are probably laughing because women complain about this stuff all the time, to me via email, because Art of Charm has so many female fans as well. When an adult male walks up to an adult female and says, hey, where'd you get that dress? I want to get it for my girlfriend. If you are not totally serious about that, one, most boyfriends don't buy dresses for their girlfriends, so it's going to be a little weird. She might believe you. But once she finds out that you're actually in a lighthearted banter, fun conversation with her, but the whole premise you started it on was a lie, it probably won't matter. But there's probably a 50% chance she thinks you're kind of a knucklehead right now because you started with that really weak sort of clear lie in order to start flirting with her. It's not the end of the world. It's totally fine. It's just pretty amateur. There's many better ways to do that without actually being, full of crap in order to start a conversation. I think the truth is you should definitely, whoever said that was definitely correct. You should start in a fun, lighthearted way that keeps things easy, but you don't have to lie to do that. And you certainly don't have to be like, great handbag. Where'd you get that? I want to get one for my wife. Okay, here's the truth. I'm hitting on you and I'm not married. I mean, the delivery could really work for you there if you were good at that stuff, but chances are you're just going to look like a guy who has no idea how to flirt, who tried to start a conversation about something that you didn't care about.
I just want to clarify for JD's sense, because I probably delivered it a little bit wrong. You know, he has a big reputation. He's not trying to get with that first girl. He's just kind of he's paving the way. Yeah, so he wants to. He doesn't want to go up and kind of try to get with this first girl and have it, it could go 50-50. He's great at what he does, but it's always, a numbers game. He wants to go up and have, a fun conversation with someone without any outcome dependency, totally eliminating this girl from his radar and then he moves on to the next girl that he makes eye contact with when he's in this conversation. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So, so based on that makes perfect sense. Trying to create an environment where other people are noticing you talking with somebody and she's smiling and laughing. That's great. You can totally do that. And again, you don't necessarily have to lie to do that because you don't know who that person knows. I mean, there might be a girl who walks up to that girl who knows her and says, hey, that guy was really cute. How do you know him? I don't. He asked me about my dress. He was going to buy it for his girlfriend. So I guess he's not single. There goes that. But you didn't think that far ahead because you had to start a conversation with something that was just BS. So I would warn against that because it's a minor point, but anytime you're lying to get something or create an effect, it's actually just bad for you.
Okay, yeah.
There's nothing to be gained by that generally. And so, in order to create a great first impression, what you're looking at then is, right, it's when you become a blip on other people's radar, right? Like we established before with the previous example. Mm-hmm. So the problem then becomes, well, wait a minute. I'm walking into a room of 80 people. How can I create a positive first impression with 80 people at once? I can't talk to 80 people at once. So what is it that people notice about you, or what is communicating to those 80 people when you walk into a room? Do you have any idea?
It's going to be body language.
It's going to be your nonverbal communication, including your body language, right? So the only way to make a great first impression with large numbers of people at the same time in the beginning of an interaction or before your interaction begins is by having really great nonverbal communication. There is no other way to do it unless you're a media personality and your PR people are putting, your images and your quotes and stuff out for people to see. Because, that's sort of interesting for me where like my reputation, it sounds so douchey, will precede me. I'll go to a conference and people have read my bio and they've looked at pictures and there's selected podcasts that the organizer had mailed out and people are familiar with what I do. That's a great first impression that I didn't have. I wasn't even around for that. But other than that, that's most of us don't have that happening to us all the time, right? So we have to focus on our nonverbal communication only.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for that?
Well, the way to do that is by habit only.
Okay.
And I'm trying to sort of choose my words carefully because I don't want to discourage people from trying to get this handled because it's one of the most important things you can improve in your whole life. So you need to create a habit of positive, really good body language. And most people don't do that. They're like, all right, I'm going to stand up straight and look tough and puff my chest out, and that's great. And the problem is then you've got to remember to do that whenever anyone else is looking at you, which is basically impossible, right? You're going to do that at Whole Foods while you're looking at stuff? Yeah, maybe you will. You're going to do that when you're at the bar hanging out? Yeah, maybe you will, but you're not going to do it in class. You're not going to do it at work. You're not going to do it when you're thinking about other things. You're going to be whoever you are normally by default, by habit. So you have to cultivate habits that encourage great nonverbal communication. And pretty much the only way to do that, unless we start getting into like brain programming stuff, and I don't know enough about that, is to practice. And so one of the drills that I'll give your listeners here is every time, well, first of all, you can stand up. Depending on where you are, it might look a little awkward. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to ask you to do anything ridiculous, but stand up, shoulders back, chest forward, nothing too exaggerated or you'll look, ridiculous. Basically a string pulling at the top of your head, broomstick pointing straight down. So you've got really upright, really solid posture. That's a really good impression. And then put a big smile on your face because that looks more engaging. It actually makes you more attractive. Science shows that that's true, except in very rare scenarios like certain types of online profile photos. That's the latest sort of trendy psychology that's actually rubbish for what we're looking to do here, is that smiling makes you less attractive. It's not true at all. And so you've got a smile on your face and great upright body language. Now do that, hold that position. Now, every time you walk through a doorway, and I mean every time for the next 3 weeks, even in your own house, when you walk to the bathroom, when you walk to your bedroom, when you walk in your kitchen, when you walk in your front door, when you walk out of your front door, you want to straighten up and do that. And that's very important because eventually you won't have to keep remembering to do that. That's just something that's going to become a habit. And then after a while, you're walking to Starbucks and you've got great nonverbal communication on the street. You've got great nonverbal communication when you walk into the Starbucks. Then every single time you walk into a room through that doorway, boom, great nonverbal communication, smile on your face. It's an easy habit to form. Well, it's a simple habit to form. Yeah. It's not an easy habit to form. It's very simple because all you have to do is that. That's going to change a lot for you. And it's not only it's going to change the first impression that you make, it's going to change the way that people relate to you based on that first impression.
Yeah, it's amazing how simple that is, but it's definitely difficult for people to commit to that and do it. But if you do, I could imagine how much of an effect it has on your life. And I've actually heard you say that before because I've listened to some of your stuff, and it's something that I think I'm definitely going to start doing from now on. I've got so many habits that I've formed into, automation by now, and I think it took me like a month to 2 months to get these. And this one's tough because you might be doing it every 30 seconds, but I'm gonna try it for a week, and I'm gonna refer to what people learned on the podcast 2 weeks ago was to do it like an experiment, just do it for a week and see at the end of the week how it goes. Because I love that tip, and I really want to encourage people to actually follow through and not just listen and then not do it,
Yeah, exactly. So this is exactly the type of thing where once you create a really solid habit, it changes the way that other people relate to you. And what I mean by that is and this is sort of like a try it and see thing, but when you come across as confident, when you come across as charismatic, open, engaging, etc., which a lot of your nonverbals are going to be saying that, depending on what they're saying now, because you can't not communicate, right? Yeah. You're communicating whether you want to or not. So a lot of people are like, I think my body language is fine. Is it fine? Maybe it is, but that's what you're communicating is that, it's okay. You're okay. Nothing special. Yeah. People who are highly engaging, look at people who are highly engaging. They don't just stroll out like, hey, everybody. Those charismatic folks, they have great nonverbal communication. Some people are going to be uncomfortable with this because they feel like they don't deserve that at some level. And that's another issue that, I can't address on a podcast here, but it changes the way that people react to you. You'll be very surprised. You'll see people are treating you with more respect. I get emails like this all the time. People are calling me sir now at the coffee shop. And it's kind of funny because this 19-year-old kid goes from looking like a 19-year-old kid to looking like a young adult. So people start treating you with more respect, which is funny because they trust you more. They believe things that you say. They give you the benefit of the doubt. You might get some winks and nods from the baristas. You can get a lot of things. You'll see a lot of changes by changing the way that you communicate with every single other person in your life. And I'm not talking about just what you say, right? You're literally, by changing your nonverbal communication, you're changing the way that you communicate with every single person that you meet in your whole life. That's a huge deal. A huge deal.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'm so glad that this is where, we ended up on this show because that's like one of the biggest tips. And I think I read somewhere, you probably know these stats better than me, but that nonverbal in an interaction was, was like 90% of the communication that was registered or something crazy like that.
Yeah, it's like there's a bunch of studies that go into that stuff, and some of them are more valid than others. But yeah, basically, vocal tonality, body language, nonverbal communication is a larger percentage of received communication than other people. People throw these studies around like, oh, it's 90%, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, think about this. If you watch a foreign movie and you don't understand any Italian, for example, you don't know what's going on just by watching them. You don't have a clue. So maybe it's 90% of what's received, but that 10% turns out to be crucial. But at the end of the day, you might be able to look at somebody in that movie and go, oh, that person's charismatic and they look friendly and I wouldn't be scared of that person, or I'd want to be friends with that person. You can still do that even if you can't understand what they're saying. You can look at somebody, and if people are sort of skeptical about this, there's always one or two. Think about whenever you see somebody who looks kind of shady or dangerous, you don't have to go, hey, man, are you a criminal? You just go, okay, I'm crossing the street now. This person, there's something weird, or this person's making weird eye contact. That's not comfortable. And guys are not that good at this, unfortunately. Women, when they hear this type of stuff, they're like, of course, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Oh my God, yeah, I do that my whole life. Guys are like, really? Oh. But a lot of guys, luckily we can train ourselves to be more observant. We can train ourselves to communicate better nonverbally. And it's actually is sort of simple as it is, and yet not easy, if you can make that distinction. It's actually one of the most powerful things you can do. And it's the beginning of a journey that your listeners won't soon forget. And, we then layer onto that. All right, now you've got great body language, and you don't try to do these at the same time. And I know no one's going to listen to me, but whatever. After you start to build the body language habit, what I want you to do is then notice the eye color of everybody that you that you talk to, that you engage with. And what that does is it stops the weird stuff that guys do when they're trying to build better eye contact, where you're just kind of laser etching your eyeballs onto somebody else, and you look really weird, like you've got like psycho stares going on, and you've got like this really zing, right? You don't want that, and you won't have that. If you notice their eye color and then you look wherever you want, you're good. And if you're one of those people like I used to be that looks at the floor when you meet somebody new, if you're going, all right, I got to notice their eye color, you'll make just enough eye contact in the beginning of the conversation so that the person notices the eye contact. And then anything you do kind of from there out, it's going to be fine. A lot of that anxiety is going to dissipate. And even if it doesn't, you still made eye contact initially, so you don't look like one of those weird people who can't look people in the eye.
Yeah, man, I love it. I really do. And I'm excited to implement all this stuff in my life because I just, I live for this stuff. And this is a pretty in-depth topic, so I think we'll end it there. I have one more question that I try to ask everyone. Do you have any self-improvement rituals that you do on a daily basis that you think separate you from the average man, other than what you just talked about, obviously?
Well, for me, yeah, I have tons, but a lot of them are not going to make sense in an audio-only format.
Yeah, what do you think's the best one?
Honestly, the best tip I give when people go, what's the best thing I can do to be more efficient, or use a calendar. And everyone's like, oh, that's a bunch of crap. No, use a calendar. Everybody I know who's successful uses a calendar, usually a digital one that syncs with their phone, and they block their day off in. My day, for example, is blocked off from waking until sleep in 15-minute increments.
Wow.
Not like I'm doing a different thing every 15 minutes. That would be bad for focus. But every single minute of my day, basically, even if it's planned out, even if it says break, right, or lunch, and it's an hour and a half long, and that's flexible, because what people do is they go, no, man, I can remember to do that and the other thing, and then soon you're like, oh, it's 2:30 and I still haven't done these 5 things I want to do today. And then so you go to the gym and you work out, and you're going to start working after you work out, and then you're like, I'm tired, and you're hungry, so you get some food, and then you're like, it's 4, and then a friend calls you, and you're like, oh, I'm chatting with them, and then your mom calls, and then you're like, oh, it's too late. You didn't get anything done that day. And if you're one of those people whose days run you and you don't run your days, you're not nearly as efficient as you could be and you should be, and you're never really going to accomplish what you want.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I totally agree with that, because for me, like being ruthlessly organized, I don't do the calendar as hardcore as you, but I'm going to look into that. It allows me to, no matter how busy I am, stay out of like the flight or fight response and just stay relaxed. And that's when I can really be my best, when I'm working. So that's a great tip. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for everything. I think that people are going to get a lot out of this. And if you really want to see results, then you got to do it. You got to start today. I'm going to start as soon as I leave this first room. I'm going to try this. And where else can people find you? And why don't you give a little plug here?
Sure. So you're already listening to podcasts, so go listen to the Art of Charm podcast. It's one of the iTunes top 50. We have an app you can get. It's free for Android or iPhone, and you can just search the market for the Art of Charm. You can search iTunes, whatever, for the Art of Charm. And also you can go to theartofcharmpodcast.com and check out our stuff there. And we've got tons of free stuff. I mean, I've got 350 plus hours of audio, all based on self-improvement from pretty much the greatest experts in the world, all the way from, Seth Godin all the way down to just dating coaches and lifestyle and attraction folks. And so there's tons there. If you don't find something there, then it's not me, it's you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you want to learn more, head to menprovement.com and click on our podcast section to find the show notes to every show with links to anything mentioned. Then check out one of our 300 plus articles, get your free starter kit, discuss ways to improve your life on the forum with guys like yourself, and find whatever you need in our self-improvement resource section. Thanks again, guys. And remember, never stop improving.